In the first 30 seconds of your video, people will decide whether they want to stay or leave. Most YouTube gurus will tell you that in order for them to stay, you need to have the hooks and say the right things. But nobody ever tells you that it's also the way that you say things. So in this video, that's exactly what I want to talk about. Let's dive right into it. So the very first thing is what I call the restaurant effect. The restaurant effect is something that, imagine you're with a friend and you're telling them something along the lines of, or the way, something like, there's 4 amazing things that I want to tell you in this dinner, at this dinner table, and you don't want to miss it. You probably would think that you need to run away as fast as humanly possible, and you would be right. That would be super weird. But imagine somebody, same restaurant, same friend, same setup, and you're talking with a friend and they're telling you, look, I've discovered this crazy technique that you need to hear about. And see how those different approaches are completely different. The first one, you would run away as fast as humanly possible, and the second one, you would probably lean in and try to figure out what is that thing that they're about to tell me. And you would be super invested in that conversation because it's natural. It's something that you would do. And so if you're on YouTube, it's exactly the same. You need to think about, how am I going to present this so that it's normal? If I start shouting or if I go super weird on camera, then it's probably not the right thing. But if it's as simple as talking to a friend, and you would talk like this to a friend in a completely normal way, you don't have to shout, you don't have to be super crazy, you just need to be normal. And if you imagine yourself being with one of your best mates at a restaurant, that is what it should look like. If it's something that you wouldn't say at a restaurant, or a way that you wouldn't say it, then it's probably not a good idea. But if it's something that comes out in a great way, then that's a way to look at it. And I always refer this to, imagine a specific conversation that you had with a friend, and you would think, like, try to imagine and have your whole body relive that situation of a specific conversation, not something that you would imagine, but a specific conversation with somebody, and you want to come out on that side of the camera the exact same way that you had in that same conversation. So have your whole brain, have your whole body feel like it's that conversation that you had with a friend. Now imagine this. You would be on a date, or you would be getting at a place where you want to impress somebody. You will come up at that date and try to impress that other person in the room. And usually what would happen is you would come out super weird, and you would never hear from them ever again. But on the other hand, if you were just trying to build a connection with the other person in the room, then it would be a completely different story. Because you're actually trying to understand them, to try to live, to build a connection. Is as simple as that. And if you were just in a place where you try to impress somebody, it would be all about you. You would be this, you would be this, look at how great I am, even if you probably don't believe it if you're trying to impress somebody. And it's the same thing on YouTube. If you're trying to impress people and try to be the best person in the world, you would be this or that, it would sound awkward. People would feel that. But if you try to build a real connection with your audience, with people on the other side of the camera, I'm looking at the lens right now, but I could be looking at you in the eyes, and it could be the exact same thing. I'm imagining talking to somebody. And it can be super hard on YouTube because you always feel like there's a million people watching, even though realistically there's probably not a million people watching. But you always have that in the back of your mind. But if you try to remove that, and if you just talk to a specific person, to a friend, to somebody, and you're not trying to impress them, but you're trying to build a connection. Say you meet somebody new and you want to build a connection, that is how you're going to go on YouTube. You want to have that instead of trying to impress people, because it would come out the wrong way. Something that I didn't used to do was trying to figure out what I wanted people to feel like on the other side of the camera. If you can't answer the question, it's a problem. And I certainly had this problem until very, very recently. In fact, I just started to implement it. What do I want people to feel like when they're watching my videos? I want them to feel like they're inspired, they're motivated, they feel like they can do this. It's not something that's not humanly possible. They can actually achieve the goals that they want on YouTube. They want to build a business, they can build a business. They can get a channel that starts to gain traction. And if you start to have that and you know what you want your audience to feel like, you're on the right track. But if you don't, you need to switch around and think, what do I want my audience to feel like when they end up watching that video? That I want them to understand something. Do I want them to feel uplifted, or do I want them to feel inspired, or any other feeling? But you want to know what you want your audience to feel like, because if you do, then it will completely change the way that you show up on YouTube, and it will give out a completely different vibe, because your whole video is around that specific vibe that you want to give out. It's not something that's just, spitting out facts, because if you just spit out facts, ChatGPT is just as good to do this. But if you want to have something that's inspiring or uplifting or whatever you want your audience to feel like, that is where you as a creator will kind of blow up, because you know where you want to feel like. And I'm not selling you this dream of just blowing up overnight, but it's something that just adds up around all the other effects of how to speak on YouTube that will completely change the way you look at it. But it's very hard for the audience to picture something. I used to wonder, how do I get people to understand what I'm talking about, or how do I get my audience to be engaged? And I started talking about stories about this other time I walked my dog, or this other time I did this, or I learned how to backflip. All of these different stories are things that you can implement in your content, not just to talk about those stories, because that would be weird, it would be out of context. But if you could use some things that you've lived in your life and implemented it and have the lessons, and then talk about just basically painting a picture of how that taught you a lesson that you can implement in my case, YouTube, but also to whatever content you're talking about. If you're learning how to play guitar, you could say that this thing that happened when you were walking your dog actually happened, or this thing happened and you thought, this is a great idea for my YouTube or for my guitar playing. I realized that I could write a song, whatever it may be. But if you can implement this and try to give example, analogies, all of these things, and I'm talking about restaurants. I talked about this in this video, in this specific video. Imagine you're at a table with, it's painting a picture of where you want to be and how you can solve a specific problem, or how you can implement things and how to speak on YouTube. If you get to tell stories that work in your favor, to tell a specific story or analogies or anything that just makes you relatable, that's all we're talking about. That's trying to be relatable, and that's going to give off the best vibe on YouTube. And if you're looking for any help on YouTube, if you have any specific questions about your own channel, just book a call. It's a Calendly link, so just book a call and we can talk about it for you specifically, for your channel and what you're trying to do on your channel. Also, when you do this and you start to implement these things to talk on camera, it's not going to blow you up overnight. It's just not going to happen. And you'll have And you'll have some times where you don't even know why you're actually making videos. And that's why I made this video, so you can check it out and learn more about how you could do all of this and just not even think about quitting. So with that said, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.